If you've never read a blockchain's white paper before, they can be a bit of a bear. There's a lot in there. Everything from different types of attacks, to how the economics work, to different ways in code that the node actually communicates with other nodes. There's a lot of material. However, with anything that you're looking to invest into, it's always important that you actually understand what the product is and how it operates. So while I strongly recommend people reading a white paper, it can be difficult. My name's Rob, and here at Bite Size, what I try to do is take complicated concepts and distill them down and make them a little bit easier for the everyday person to understand. If you like that sort of content, be sure to subscribe, or hit the like, or just leave a comment down below. I love communicating with audiences, and I try to answer as many of the comments as I can. Without further ado, though, let's take a look at the Theta 3.0 Mainnet white paper. So the Theta 3.0 Mainnet white paper, there's a couple of core changes to it. And in fact, it's been broken down into two major changes. The first is an upgrade of elite edge nodes. So that's allowing people to go from the standard edge node that we're familiar with already, that's available to everybody for free right now on the main page, and upgrading those into the elite edge nodes. This is broken up into a couple different portions. There's the T-fuel inflation aspect. Then there's also going to be the new T-fuel staking that'll get added in. Both of these are going to be impacted slightly through uptime mining, and I'll talk about what uptime mining is a little later in the white paper. The second major change to the system is through the T-fuel burn. So while there's going to be an inflation aspect to it, there's also going to be a deflationary aspect to it in the fact that some of the T-fuel is going to get burned off. This creates a service quality feedback loop, and this is the terminology that's used a lot in the white paper, was they describe why they're doing this sort of activity. It also has to do with that smart contract locking. Now, smart contracts have not been implemented fully into the Theta system yet, but it's a critical portion to the overall economics of the unit, and that's where that T-fuel burning and the smart contract locking are going to be involved together. So at this point, we've only made it into page 2, but inside of page 2, you can actually see you got that upgrade node information and the new T-fuel burn being added in there. All right, so let's take a look at the first portion of it, which is the upgrade of elite edge nodes. This is broken up into 3 separate sections. The first is T-fuel inflation. There's going to be an inflation rate of 4%, and that'll be rewarded to staked T-fuel. Now in the actual white paper it specifies 2 to 4% inflation rate, and that means that it's something that can change. They're going to be able to have the ability to change dynamically what that inflation rate is based on the overall demand and how it impacts the economics. Though communication from the team is that it's going to start at 4%. This is designed to trigger economic balance, as well as provide for constant liquidity. All right, so what does that mean? Well, in the actual white paper, they've got this document. And what you've got here is, this is the supply. So there's about 5 billion T-fuel currently in the system. With that 4% inflation rate over time, you're going to end up seeing this increase to about 6 billion, 7 billion each year. So if we're in year 1 right now at about 5 billion, by year 2 will be about 5.5, by year 3 will be about 6 billion. So this is their 10-year plan down here. As this supply continues to increase, this is the overall supply, you're going to see a network burn. So this is what we're going to talk about a little bit later with that T-fuel burn. But it's going to start off as just 25%, and I'll explain that in a little bit later. But that has the ability to dynamically change and increase as the actual network demand increases or decreases. So as we get an increase in supply, there's going to be an increase in burn rate. In addition, with individuals staking that T-fuel and the rewards linked to how much is staked, right now there's about 4.5 billion T-fuel sitting out in the open. It's currently not staked. They're expecting that to really not change significantly into year 2, into year 3. But by the time we get to year 4, it'll be about 4 billion in circulation, about 3.2 billion in circulation, 2.3 billion in circulation. Remember, this is the overall supply. So the supply is going to go up, and the amount in circulation will decrease until we get down to about 10-year, where they're estimating that there will be very little in circulation. All of it will either be staked or will be part of the burn. So this is designed to be part of the economic triggers and to provide constant liquidity. Now what's liquidity? Liquidity just means that there's available tokens for individuals to purchase. And if the T fuel is what's going to be actually used by different carriers in order to pay for the use of the network, you want to make sure that that's available for them to purchase, but not too much of it. The second thing that's adding in is that T fuel staking. Now what this is going to do is currently we have edge nodes. This is going to be able to have people turn their edge node into an elite edge node. An elite edge node is the exact same thing as an edge node with one difference. You have T fuel staked on it. The terminology the Theta team is using is that the staked T fuel is going to provide a base salary. So it's amount to pay to everybody who's running an edge node. So if you have an edge node and you stake some T fuel on it, you have a guaranteed income. In addition to that, there's going to be the proof of relay. Proof of relay is when your edge node, your computer, is given an opportunity to transfer data to another user. You're rewarded a small amount of T fuel for that. And you can see that happening right now. Most people are seeing usually about one instance or so a day for 1/10 of a T fuel or 2/10 of a T fuel. And that's the proof of relay. That's the standard edge node payout. This is where they use the terminology of double rewards. The two rewards is 1, the proof of relay, 2, the base salary that'll be yours from T fuel staking. The reasons that they state for doing this: 1, they want to increase the adoption of edge nodes. So by having a base salary, they're guaranteeing even before there's any relay that needs to happen, before the network is actually used, there's going to be guaranteed income for those individuals. Secondly, they want it to act as a temporary sink. As the T fuel increases, so as you have more T fuel in the system, as that 4% inflation continues year over year over year, there's going to be more and more T fuel. One of the concerns of a blockchain is as there's too much fuel, or too much of the token, it becomes inflationary. And what this means is that there's extra tokens out there. It's easy for the people to just liquidate those tokens, and that drives the price down. By forcing you to stake it, by forcing you to put it somewhere that you can't move it, it removes how much is in circulation, and that keeps the price higher. This is all detailed in pages 6 and 7 of the actual mainnet white paper. The third aspect is uptime mining. The way uptime mining works: so you have a node. That node, that edge node, is going to connect to a validator or a guardian node. You're going to create something called a mesh network. This is something that's kind of thought popular with routers right now. You'll hear about mesh routers. Similar concept. There's constant communication going on between the validator and the guardian, as well as the edge node. Throughout the course of the day, the week, the month, there will be a BLS signature. Now, all this really means is that the blockchain is going to change at some point on the validator or the guardian. So the blockchain number will modify. Every edge node needs to send its signature to its validator or guardian. And it has to have on it the same blockchain change. So if we're on blockchain number 7, your edge node has to report that it also is blockchain number 7. When that changes, if your edge node does not send the proper signature to its validator or guardian node, you are left out of the rewards. This is how uptime mining works. This ensures that every time there is a change to the blockchain, your edge node is reporting that it is up to date and running. That T fuel assignment, so that inflationary 4% T fuel assignment, will happen randomly, meaning you do not know when you may or may not receive a large portion of that incentive. This is to prevent people from signing on for small periods of time. It's actually quite possible for your edge node to sign on for days at a time and never receive a single T fuel. You could then end up with a huge allocation of T fuel simply because your mesh network was selected to receive that incentive. This again provides uptime mining. It prevents individuals from turning a rig on, say, only when they're not using it for gaming, and instead to leave it on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can see a layout of exactly how that works in the white paper. What you have are you have the validators. Each of those validators is then sending out signals to the guardians. You can see that the guardians are connected to each of these edge nodes. So the edge node will actually transmit this BLS signature back to the guardian node. And in fact, I actually think this is an error right here. So there's an arrow pointing from this edge node to a validator. As I understand it on the white paper, this wouldn't actually happen. I think that triangle, that arrow shouldn't exist. But in every other instance, you're going from an edge node directly to a guardian, transmitting that signature saying, I'm up to date with the latest code. All right, so let's talk about the second half of this modification, the T-fuel burn. Why is this being added in? The Theta team uses the terminology service quality feedback loop. And what they're referring to with this is that higher payers are going to get a higher priority. So as the network begins to evolve, if you pay a larger amount of T-fuel, you're ensuring that you will receive priority from the edge nodes, meaning that your content will get out to individuals faster. It also works as a balancing for the network's availability with the network's demand. 25% of all that T-fuel currently will get burned. As the network has more availability, there's going to be additional burns happening. This will reduce the amount of payout. As there's less availability on the network, it's going to have a lower burn. This increases the amount of payout. The idea is it's going to increase the incentivization for more people to turn on edge nodes. If we start to cap out the Theta network with the amount of edge nodes that can support it, it pays more money for you to turn on more nodes. If we have a lot of availability and nobody paying it, it actually would reduce the amount that gets paid to the individual. In addition, there's a small note in there that I really liked. The Theta team mentions that they will introduce a free, or what I'm assuming to be a burn-free tier for individuals who don't want to pay any sort of T-fuel. And this should allow the network to actually function and continue to run, similar to how they're doing with the Theta.tv system, in order to just meet capacity on the network. The second aspect to the T-fuel burn is smart contract locking. What they're attempting to do is they're going to try to remove T-fuel from circulation. Content providers are going to need to lock up T-fuel in a smart contract to make their payment. So if you are a content provider and you want to use the Theta network, you have to pay all the T-fuel up front, locked up in a smart contract that will then divvy out that T-fuel on an as-needed basis. This locks up more of the T-fuel and prevents it from being liquidated, meaning that those coins or those tokens aren't available to go out into the market and someone to just sell it and drop the price of T-fuel. So overall, this is going to reduce that T-fuel circulation, and then in addition, staked T-fuel reduces the T-fuel in circulation as well. Even though there's a small lockout period on it, it prevents individuals from simply liquidating it immediately. All of this is being done to try to increase the price of T-fuel and keep it at a stable, high equity value, because that T-fuel is what's going to pay nodes like you and I to run those systems. Video platforms are going to load up T-fuel into their smart contracts. The smart contracts, a portion of that will get burned. The rest will be delivered to the edge nodes that actually relay the information. The Theta Mainnet 3.0 changes are expected to take place June 30th. However, this has been pushed back from when it was originally scheduled in April, so we'll have to wait and see. As I showed, the bulk of the document contains the two core changes: the changes to the T-fuel inflation and staking aspects, and the new T-fuel burn. I'll leave a link below to the rest of the document. However, it goes over things like attack vector analysis, leeching, and different types of malicious streaming attacks that could happen on the network, as well as the methods the system is using to try to counteract those. There's a bunch of code in there as well, specifically on how different nodes will communicate, and a couple of ideas on other ways to expand the network and add additional nodes into it as the demand for the network continues to increase. If you find the time, check it out. And that's a white paper in a nutshell. If you liked this content, let me know. Share a comment below on any other content that we should be investigating. I'd be happy to go do some research on it and then distill it down into a quick video that you guys can consume. With anything, there's a ton of information, but our ability to understand it helps us to use it. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk to you again soon.